Got to make sure I hit record. Give y'all a few minutes to pop in here. I know this hasn't even popped up live yet with the delay. So we're going to hang out just a minute. Oh. So I guess there's got to be like a 20, 30-second delay in this thing. I see it popping up on the other screen now. So those of you that don't know, I actually have another cell phone off camera here that runs because your comments kind of pop up here on the screen and then disappear, but I can see them staying in the live chat over here. So when you see me glance over here, I'm reading comments as they're popping up. Or after I couldn't read them here, I can scroll back through easy without touching the screen and doing crap like that. Because I do this off a tablet. But what's everybody up to this evening? We're talking about this. This came from a couple different things I want to touch on this week. I read, got to talking to, I can't remember who I was talking to about getting out of it, what you put into it, hunting in general. And then I saw another post by one of a recent guests we had on here, Mike, with Kodiak Ranch Outfitters cleaning his gear after a hunt, dude. And that's such an important step that I think we miss out on. So we're going to touch on some of that stuff tonight. But before we get in there and touch on all that sweet stuff, this week's episode is brought to you by Deep Roots Rifle Company. Elevated excellence rooted in integrity and reliability. Use the link in the description to get over to their website and order just about everything you'll need to get into the woods this fall, from a fully custom rifle built in-house to flashlights to help you find your way in the dark. And be sure to tell them UPO, wait a minute, I forgot. We've got a code. Be sure to use code UPO10 at checkout for 10% off your order. That way they know that we sent you there. So before we jump into the show, though, they still got, 34 seats available for the Staccato P webinar. That's a really nice pistol. There's a link in the link in the description here and in the podcast description that you can click on and go straight there to buy your seats. They're $50 a piece for the webinar, and somebody's going to win that Staccato P. 1 in 50 is not bad. So. And one in for $50, $50 or $100. That's a really nice pistol. So, yeah, 34 left in stock. 9mm, 17 plus 1 or 20 plus 1, 4 to 4.5 pound trigger. This is Staccato's 2011. Okay, so it's a beautiful, beautiful handgun. It's a 9mm 1911 if you don't know what a 2011 is, or around that. It's 33 ounces. It's a little heavy, but it's a steel frame. It's 4140 steel, which is really going to knock down that recoil. But it's a toolless Dawson precision recoil system. It's $2,500 MSRP, and you can get a chance at it for $50 and learn all about the gun as Peter goes over it. So I would highly recommend you guys hop over to their website if you're going to buy nothing else. Get a chance to get in that webinar and a chance to win that pistol. So you don't have to attend the webinar to win. You just have to, buy a seat to win. But you be in there and have at it. Attend the webinar. Learn about this pistol. Help this be successful. And they may do some more stuff like this in the future. So that's what we want to see, where you can win more things, right? You get your hands on some of their awesome stuff. We've given away some of their, what's going on, Tyke? Sorry, Tyke, you can't win the Staccato because you live in California. Wow, so sad. But yeah, it's got to go shipped to your FFL. You have to be able to pass a background check, all those great things. But nonetheless, good stuff. What's going on, AJ? So let's dive into, you give what you get, right? So we're talking about something that doesn't always get the spotlight it deserves. Everything that happens before you ever knock an arrow or pull a trigger, we're diving into some key areas, good hunter, that separate a good hunter from a great one, right? We're going to talk about scouting, equipment maintenance, and attitude. Whether you got a new spot you're trying to figure out, or you're just trying to stay sharp in the off season, this episode should hit home for you. So we're going to start off with e-scouting. This has become a modern technique with all the new apps out there. I like Spartan Forge, but you got them. You got Onyx, you got HuntStand, you got a multitude of free ones. Spartan Forge is great for free. Last I checked, they were still giving away your property owner information. You're getting that for free with their free app, but it's the modern hunter's best friend. You can learn a ton about an area before boots ever hit the ground. I've heard a lot of trash talked about people that e-scout. Oh, you gotta spend time boots on the ground. Well, if you're like me, I don't have all the time in the world to just walk around the woods. I have a job, a full-time job at that, and I got kids who play sports and a wife and a family. It's just a lot of work, and when I have time to get out of the woods, I have to make it count, right? I have to make every second count. So I start off with the e-scouting. I like to start with pulling up Google Earth or pulling up Spartan Forge. What's going on, Jake? And then you layer in topo maps and satellite imagery, and then public and private boundaries, right? And another one I like to use that's free is Avenza Maps. Avenza Maps is, to me, it's kind of more important when you're on the ground, because what you're doing there is you're gathering a map that's given by the state agency, and then Avenza will help layer your GPS points on top of that. So it's going to let you see your actively closed roads or open roads, or, go, no-go boundaries within an area. And I've actually found it to be a little more accurate in some instances than some of the other mapping apps. So, but it's, like I said, it's free. You can pay us like $20 a year, or you can have unlimited maps downloaded, or I think you can have 7 for free, and you just delete old ones you're not using and re-download them later if you need them. But you do lose your pins when you do that, so it is what it is. I don't save a lot of pins on there, but I do use it. So you're looking at the big things down here. 3 big T's, especially down here in Florida. 2 of those are going to be, the 3 are going to be terrain, transitions, and travel. All right. The 2 main ones down here in the south, where it's kind of flat, are going to be transitions and travel corridors. So terrain is going to tell you where the deer can go. The transition lines, that's a mix of habitat, like hardwoods meeting a thicket, or what you see a lot of times down here is where pines meet a swamp, or hardwoods meet a swamp bottom. It's going to create that definitive line. Even when you're in the woods, you can see it. Or in places where you've got agriculture, that could be a field edge. It tells you where the deer are going to prefer to move. It's going to create a natural pathway. And travel corridors are like creek bottoms, fence gaps, logging roads, and that's where the patterns start to emerge. We went on a little bow hunting trip back in September, and I looked at WMA, and I scouted. And mind you, this is like a 3.5-hour drive from the house. So traveling up there, I guess, was feasible over a weekend if I didn't have baseball tournaments and the radio show and working on call and everything else. I got a lot of stuff going on. So I'm going to e-scout. And then the first chance we got out there, I said, guys, I said, look, and Jake can attest to this. I said, look, this right here, this has got to be the spot. This has got to be a good spot. And that's the first place we went. And it was straight covered in hog sign. Covered in pig, deer sign. There was quail. Just a beautiful area. Now, if AJ had set his alarm, Jake could have killed a deer. I'm blaming AJ for Jake not killing a deer that last morning. It's all AJ's fault. But that goes back to not taking it so serious. We had a good time, and it's hot. It's hot in the early season. I'd love to go back when it's a little cooler out. I'll take that laughing emoji face as a owning up to making Jake miss an opportunity at that doe, AJ. I'll drop pins for suspected bedding, feeding and access routes, and then plan and try to look at how, especially with Spartan Forge and that historic weather data, I'm going to plan how wind direction might affect that. and how I'm going to access it that way. Start looking for an easier, quiet way to get in there because I don't want to. Um, I don't want to make a bunch of racket. I don't want to get my wind going in the wrong direction. And see, right, AJ, you said it was AJ's fault. Yeah, he spiked the beer. That's what happened, and then didn't set his alarm. So I use apps like Spartan Forge, Caltopo, Avenza, Google Earth is another great one to use to do that. Um, and down here where there isn't a lot of topography, because it's pretty flat, I like to use the LiDAR feature on Spartan Forge. That's going to show me those little minor elevation breaks. What it really shows me, a big thing down here when it comes to travel corridors, is it's going to show me historic fire breaks that I otherwise can't see because they're overgrown with palmettos. But the deer are still going to move up and down those fire breaks to the palmettos. Yeah, but I would have heard it and woke you up and scared you like I did the first morning. AJ said he wouldn't hurt it anyway if it went off. That LiDAR, it shows you like it'll look like a trail ends, and you can still see it continuing on through the woods, even though from satellite imagery it's gone. Or when you turn trails on, it's not highlighted anymore. You can still see that it's there. And with if you're looking at like a cattle pasture, you can see cattle trails on that thing. So even if the deer trails weren't deep enough, you can see it on LiDAR. If you're using Spartan Forge and you've got the aerial imagery available in your hunting area, if you go back and see if you have images from around when you had a big storm, like down here in Florida, it's going to be hurricanes. It's going to you can use that to show fall and timber patterns, and it's going to often show you bedding cover. So those are things to think about as well. And then when you're on the ground, figuring out what they're eating and going from there. You're putting all the puzzles together once you're on the ground. All the pieces of the puzzle together once you're on the ground. So if you can read terrain, you can read deer. Contour lines on a topo map tell a story. Tight lines are telling you it's steep. Wide spacing means it's flat. In Florida, you turn on a topo map, you're like, why am I staring at a blank sheet of paper? Because it's flat. So saddles are going to be those dips between two high points. They're natural travel funnels. Ridges give deer a wind advantage, and creek crossings often mark habitual routes. So spend time studying these at home, so when you're in the woods, you can visualize movement before you ever see a track. And that's how you're going to maximize that time with the e-scouting. I'm not saying that e-scouting can completely take the place of boots on the ground, but it's going to help you maximize your time once you're in the woods, give you an idea where you want to start, and you move from there when you get there. You can print out topo maps from Caltopo and mark possible stand or camera sites with wind arrows. So, and once all the e-scouting is done, you got boots on the ground. It doesn't beat, you can't be getting out there. So once you're on the ground, verify what you saw digitally, hoping to see tracks, rubs, scrapes, bedding depressions, droppings, and feeding sign. I keep a small Write in the Rain notebook. See if I got one. It's over there. I'm not going to reach over there and grab it. And I jot down notes if I need to. I have one in my backpack. I have one in here. They're awesome little books because they literally, if you get a Write in the Rain pen especially, it will write in the rain. It'll write wet. And the pages don't get torn up when they get wet. You can write down sign, wind, timing. You can also, in the Spartan Forge app, keep that in the journal feature. And then the AI will pick up on all that stuff and help you pattern deer as well. Early season, your scouting patterns. Late season, your scouting survival, food, and cover. So the little notebook be like a Write in Rain 4x6 book. Binoculars are a big one to keep around too. Or a pencil. Pencil never wrote good on that Write in the Rain. I never had a good luck with those. It's because it's got that waxy film on there. You must have a hell of a pencil. But yeah, pencil's like the solution to the the cosmonaut solution to the anti-gravity pin in space, except high oxygen environment, and graphite sparks, and all that good shit. But yeah, no problem. Um, you can write with any pin. Just don't use a regular old like a big pen works fine. Just don't use the really inky pens because they tend to smear. But it will dry and work just fine. It rubs off over time. You can reuse notebook. That's fair. If you press down hard enough, you can read your old uh, writing anyway. It's like reading Sanskrit. Um, we've all been there, right? Where you got to scout when you can scout, and scouting your way in. You don't have time to scout, or you're hunting out of state. This is where that e-scoutingers are going to come in. You get there, you just don't have the vacation days. The first day you're out, it's legal to hunt. I mean, I try to hopefully plan in a couple days to scout if I can show up before whatever season I'm going to hunt. If I plan on hunting a muzzleloader hunt, I can pick up like the last couple days of archery or whatever else, or get out there and you scout a little bit. That's when you scout your way in. You're going to move slow, glass ahead, and treat every step as a scouting opportunity. What that looks like for me, though, a lot of times going in is going to be going in the pitch dark, and I'm going to use dimmer flashlight, a lot of times red or green. And then when I get to where I want to be or think I want to be, I'm going to switch over to a bright white, and I'm going to look around. I'm trying to see, what can I see? Is it thicker here than I thought it was going to be? Am I going to be able to sit in a tree and see a little ways, or am I just screwed and I got to move on? That's worked out really well for me in the past, and it's also screwed me. I've walked to a spot, looked around, said, this has got to be it. Sat up there, climbed up 15, 20 feet up a tree, and I can't see but 30 yards. I've also walked to a spot, and it was foggy, and I was like, I know I can see at least 40 yards using a really bright light. So I dimmed the light back down, climbed up in the tree, and when the daylight came up, and I could, in the fog, see about 40 yards. And then the fog lifted, and I could see like 150 across this creek, just like creek bottom in the fall, and Tennessee. It was beautiful. Saw a nice 7-point that morning. Did not shoot him. But don't commit to a setup too soon, right? This is where you're going to want to throw in that mobile setup. Like last week we talked about hunting out of a climber or off the ground or whatever else in the saddle. Like everything has it's going to call for your method's going to change depending on what you're doing. If I know where I'm going and it's not very far, I'm taking the climber because I can sit longer, sit quieter, sit tighter in that climber. If I don't know what I'm doing, dude, I hate carrying that climber in blind because you walk, and then I am one who gets me every time. I walk a little bit, and I'm like, yeah, but what's right around that corner? I just got to know. So then I walk a little further, and next thing you know, I've gone way too far. And I've passed up too much good stuff, and I've run out of sign and I'm backtracking on myself. But it's easier when you have a mobile setup, whether you're sitting on the ground, you're sitting in a chair on the ground, or you're hunting out of a lock-on, or you're hunting out of a saddle, something that's lightweight you can carry around easier. Set up and take down real easy. Those are going to be better for your scouting your way in trips. And if all you have is a climber, use the climber, man. I've done plenty of those with a climber on my back. Let's talk about equipment maintenance. That's one of the things I think that we should all be doing, but it doesn't get talked about a lot. We don't see it on social media. Nobody talks about doing it. We all just assume we are, right? But you can't just take your hunting clothes, or you shouldn't just take your hunting clothes and throw them in with your work clothes, dump the Tide and OxyClean in there, and call it a day. Some hunting clothes, like we talked about last week, like wool, if you can avoid getting them muddy, you don't really need to wash it until it gets really nasty because it's antimicrobial. It's not going to stink. But when you do have to wash wool, it needs to be hand washed. And a lot of times they'll tell you this on the tag. You need to hand wash it, put it in a sink, run some mild soap over it, unscented, and then let it hang dry or air dry. Sometimes you really want to be careful too with some wool. letting it hang dry because it'll still stretch under the weight of the water and the wool, and you don't want to do that either. Then it fits funny. So you got to be careful with wool. Um, Not so much with merino wool. Is not near as it's a little sturdier than like older sheep's wool stuff, but most of your modern wool is pretty sturdy. But follow your washing directions when it comes to wool, and that's the best thing you can do. A lot of times, if you can take a brush to it or spot wash it, if you get mud or blood stains on a bit of your wool, spot wash that one spot and be done with it. Rest of your clothes, wash them in the washing machine if that's cool with that. Unscented detergent, right? You don't have to use stuff like Dead Downwind or Wildlife Research Scent Killer Gold. Just unscented stuff. Just avoid the household detergents because they leave the UV brighteners and they make you glow to a deer. I don't know if you guys have seen the recent research where it's showing that rubs and scrapes have like a UV glow to them that deer are seeing, and it's marking like highway travel routes to the woods. So, and then the air dry stuff outdoors. Then store everything, store it in a sealed tote. I keep mine in like a tough box. Um, I don't keep natural pine cover stuff in there, but you can. Best cover scent is Marlboro Red. Hell yeah. That's what Granddaddy used. Pine needles or cedar chips, some leaves. We took some 4S, some corn spike, and dumped it down in the bottom of there at one point, and it just smells sweet. It's like apple scented. But watch out for bears, I guess. Let's talk about re-waterproofing your boots. Unless they're made of rubber or neoprene, they've got some sort of coating on the outside. Gore-Tex is waterproof as well, but they've got some sort of waterproofing substance on the outside. It's not a membrane that's keeping the water out. It's oil or something. And you can, after a couple seasons or even one season, depending on it, you'll notice that these boots that you first bought when you would walk to the tree stand in the morning, the dew, your feet wouldn't get wet. They'd stay good and dry. And then after a season of going back and forth in the dew and crossing a creek here and crossing a creek there, they start leaking. Your toes get a little wet. So clean them first, and then apply something like Nick Wax Fabric and Leather Proof or Obanoff's Heavy Duty LP. Follow the application directions there and let that dry out, and that's going to help keep re-up that moisture barrier layer on the outside. You can stuff boots with newspaper overnight to help draw out moisture faster. Or if you're out in the woods, you get some rocks hot and put those down in the boots to help get some of that moisture out, but don't put rocks in there that are too hot so you don't catch the boots on fire. Another thing too, if your boots did get wet on the inside, take the insole out and they tend to dry out faster. So cleaning your firearms, right? You need to keep that shotgun or rifle reliable. And the worst time to find out it's no longer reliable is when you go to shoot and it doesn't fire. And I think that's probably when a lot of people tend to find out the shotgun's dirty, is when it shoots and jams or doesn't go off at all, then you're shit out of luck. So you can run a boar snake through it after a hunt, after you've been out in the woods for a few days, and then you do a full tear down once or twice a season. When it comes to a muzzleloader, you need to be tearing that thing down probably after every hunt. If your muzzleloader season's 2 weeks, you could probably get away without cleaning it for those 2 weeks. But if you're going to carry it for longer than that, or you get out in some wet conditions, you really need to take that thing apart and clean it. Because even black powder substitutes, they're not near as corrosive as black powder is, but they're still very corrosive, and they get corrosive very fast. So keep that stuff clean. Use a CLP, a clean, lubricate, and protect. When you're doing that deep clean, you're gonna that even in a light clean, it'll use CLP. When you go to the deep clean, you want to use copper solvents, get all the barrel cleaned out, all that good stuff. You store firearms in a low humidity cabinet with silica packs. So you can buy them online. It's gonna absorb all the moisture in your gun safe, or a small dehumidifier rod. We've given some of those away at some of our events before. Um, the bore snakes are caliber specific. Um, Quality cleaning kit's another good thing to have. Making sure that when you're running patches and stuff down your barrel, you're using the proper size jag for doing that, so you don't get stuff stuck. And you end up having to either try and figure out how to get it out or take it to a gunsmith, and that's no fun. We don't want to do that. Um, but two, something to think about is I'm sure you've heard people mention a cold bore shot. Well, it's far more likely you're suffering from a clean bore shot. So you go and clean it good. Before you go out after that good cleaning, make sure you go recheck your zero. Another thing too to think about, we talk about cleaning firearms. We don't often talk about sharpening broadheads. If you're shooting fixed blade broadheads, dull broadhead is wasted potential. For fixed blades, you can use something like a KME sharpener, whetstone, or a work sharpener, light strokes at a consistent angle. If you got a single bevel, it's only going to be one side. Double bevel, you're gonna double bevel. You're gonna do both. For mechanical broadheads, just inspect the O-rings and blades every trip, and replace them if you see nicks or bending, or your O-ring is rotting out. Because what you don't want to have happen, especially if that O-ring's getting dry rotted, you've had it on there a few seasons, you shoot, broadhead deploys, and now you get some weird flight patterns. So we don't want to have that. Probably one of the most important things I think you could bring to a hunt is your attitude. This is where you really get out of it what you put into it. How you approach your hunt mentally can make or break it. You go in curious and not cocky. Instead of thinking, I have to kill today, think, I'm here to learn this piece of ground. And that mindset keeps you observant and patient. You can put too much pressure on yourself by continually thinking today has to be the day. And you can get burnt out real quick doing that. We don't want that to happen. You want to enjoy the hunt. You want to enjoy being in the woods. That's the best part of it, right? Killing an animal is great. We get food out of that. That's the end goal in all reality. But it's not everything. It's only, I would say, 2% of the hunting is the killing. The rest is all the work to get to that point. And you're going to spend more days where you don't harvest a deer in the woods than where you do. And then management of expectations, right? Social media has warped a lot of hunting expectations. You don't need a 150-inch deer every year. You don't need one at all, in fact, to be successful or to be happy. Success for some people might just be encountering a deer, right, Jake? Still in here? Learning wind patterns or improving your shot discipline. The shot discipline, like not missing a deer, right, AJ? Remember, it's called hunting, not harvesting. Managing expectations, and you'll enjoy the journey a lot more. I try not to mentally set myself up for failure. I go out there expecting to enjoy the camaraderie of my hunting buddies, and to just enjoy being in the woods, get a break, because a bad day of hunting beats a good day at work 10 days out of 10. But another thing, too, with the attitude is your reaction to pressure and other hunters. This is a big one, especially on public land. Here recently, we had Ian and I did a hunt at a local WMA here, and see, Jake's seen 2 this year. And AJ's already missed 1, so he's good for the rest of the year. The rest of them deer better look out. The first day, I believe, we had a guy walk in on us, and then the day after that, we walked up on a guy. Now, I don't know that I don't know that guy that we walked up on saw us, because Ian didn't even see him. I turned him around. I caught the first glimpse of him up in the tree, and I turned around and hightailed out of there. I don't know if he saw us or not. If you did and you're in here, I apologize. I didn't see you when I saw you. We got out as quick as we could. But you're not alone in the woods. Okay, it's public land. Um, you have to expect at some point you're probably gonna run into people. I don't. It doesn't happen very often for me, and I don't really hunt all that deep. I don't get crazy with it. I try not to park on top of other people, and even when I do, you kind of gotta. If I know I'm stuck, if I'm confined to a parking area, I'm like at a parking area at the end of the trail. I try to be there as early as I can to get out to the woods first. Not so that I don't walk up on people going in, but I want to be the one that gets walked up on. I would rather somebody come cruising past me and bump a deer to me than vice versa, right? So I'm going to try and get in the woods, get set up, and maybe they come in just a little late. Deer, I've had people bump deer in, they bed down right next to me because they have no idea I'm there. And then light comes around and they're right there where they left them that when they walked through. And I've also been the guy to bump deer to people. It happens. Just don't let another hunter ruin your day. You can adjust your setup. You could try hunting midday. You may see more people. You may see less. You're going out when they're coming in. Or you could try moving deeper or shallower. But don't be the guy that sets up on the road to walk in and then get upset when somebody walks past you. Brother, you're on the trail. That's where people walk. Although I do find it fun sometimes to set up near those walking trails, especially if there's good sign. And you just get in there and hide real well and listen to the people go